What is important about preparation? What preparation do we need to do? Any clues?
Get the aircraft ready first up.
Yes.
DI.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, I guess we're looking at different time spans, aren't we? You know, the annual preparation is getting your glider ready in winter, getting all the ancillaries ready, making sure you can use it all, making sure you can use your Rudy or whatever it is, and that all the equipment is under control. You know how to use it. You can teach others how to use it. So part of the preparation is making sure you can use all of your equipment, including these. So if you don't know how to use it, get some help, get up to speed with it. And one good thing to do is to rerun some flights in your gadget, as was shown on that those screens I had up earlier, so that you can play with things and understand how it works. So in preparation, I guess, is know your equipment. And in winter, you're getting everything ready. Your equipment is ready. You know what competitions you're going to, so you can get all your turn point files. Know how to get your turn point files and get them into your equipment. Turn point files are always tricky. So that's more long-term stuff. Anything else on long-term, you know, winter type preparation?
Oh, airspace can go into that.
Turn point files, airspace files, yeah. So winter's almost over, everyone's done all that.
Yep.
Rightio.
And for those who is flying club gliders, that the actual glider is set in the computer.
Yeah, people flying club gliders have extra difficulty. In fact, if you're flying club gliders, it's good to get your own set of equipment to go with that glider. You know what's in the glider, if you don't find out, and then get your own ancillary equipment to go with it, whether it's your own parachute, oxygen equipment, I don't know, UDI,
It was just
maps.
embarrassing and frustrating a couple of times when you flew the whole task and then you realized that a different glider radio was in the computer.
Yeah, yeah.
And you kind of use these files.
Yep. Yeah, so your equipment is your logger as well. Loggers are very important, of course, these days. So do you know how to get your logger set up, declare tasks, all that stuff?
And you've got to make sure they don't turn themselves off when you've towed the glider up to the start line.
Because it thinks you've had a flight that's now finished.
You've got to turn that off.
Might have been the best flight of the day. Rightio. All right, well, it's pretty clear the sort of stuff you've got to get ready before the season starts. Now on the preparation for the day. So this is a checklist that I use. The stuff to get ready early in the morning. The stuff to get ready at flight planning stage, if you like. Getting your mind ready, perhaps. So this is the information you need to get sorted out. The stuff you need before you hop in the glider. And I guess the stuff you need when you're ready to go, when you're ready to hop in. So I think that's all pretty clear. If you're flying a club glider, you might need to do more than that. I mean, for example, my parachute's always in my glider, so it's not on the checklist. What else is always in the glider?
Sunblock.
Yeah, sunblock. You can put sunblock on your list. Good idea. But I always have sunblock there, so. And I've got a little outlanding bag that I always carry around. It's got a torch and I don't know what else. Rightio. So that's the daily preparation. How long do you think it takes to go through all that? Any suggestions?
A couple of hours at least.
Yeah, by the time
Alright, anyway.
you've washed your glider, you've put water in it, got it down to the flight line, it takes a fair while. But if you understand how long each section takes, then you've got a better idea of how to work out your day and how to get it done in time so that you're ready on the grid when you need to be. No good having a flight plan that says you're going to leave at 1, so you've got to take off at 12, and you end up not getting down there till 2 o'clock. The best preparation is lots of practice. So get as much practice as you can. Now, when you're practicing, what are you going to practice? This is flying. You're practicing flying. What are you going to practice? What can you practice in winter?
Thermally.
You're going to practice thermally? Yep. What about thermally? What are you going to practice with
Centering.
thermally?
Quick centering.
Centering?
Speed control.
Finding? Control? Yeah, all of those things. So you can practice that even in winter. In fact, that's the best time to practice so that you're ready for the soaring season. Yeah, so try and make your practice, especially if you're not actually doing it cross country, but even then, make it targeted. What are you going to practice today? Think about what you're going to practice today. What do you need to practice? What are you still working on? How can you practice it today? What exercises can you do to practice that today? Think about it, work it out. Get a plan for today's practice. And then at the end of it, how did it go? Did I get better? What did I learn? Do I need to practice it some more? All that sort of stuff. So don't just go for a nice flight. Oh, it was lovely. I got to 5,000 feet today. Saw 2 eagles. You've practiced something and you've learned something. And you've got better at something. What else can you practice?
Use of your Udi.
Yes? Yes, practice using the equipment, we'll say. Practice using your equipment.
Reading the weather and forecasts.
Yes, practice forecasting.
Mm-hmm.
Collect all the information. What's it going to be like? And then go flying. How did it work out? Was it correct? Where did I go wrong? Is it because I looked at RASP and RASP was using information that was 36 hours old? I should have looked at the morning temp trace. That sort of stuff. So you can practice, I don't know, planning, I suppose. What else can you practice?
Look code. The owners.
Yes? Yes? All those things that go with flying. Lookout, awareness, etc. Another thing that's important to practice is something that you sometimes have to do with cross-country flying. What's that?
Outline.
Outlanding.
Rigging the rigging.
Outlanding. So you're not going to outland in winter, and you don't normally go and practice outlanding, but you can. What can you do that's...
No altimeter.
You can choose fields, you can choose paddocks.
Yeah, that's right. You can cover the altimeter, you can choose paddocks. What else?
Make your landings more accurate where you say.
Do short field landings. So, yep. So landing practice, we'll call it. So you're doing short field landings, which means, how do you do that? What are you going to do to practice a short field landing?
High circuit.
Modify secrets.
Sorry?
Well,
Pick a
Why-
couple of points on the ground and just land to them.
That's right. So you decide this is the section of runway that I'm going to land on. I think I can land in that length, and then do it. So that means you've got to have markers there of some sort. You don't have to put markers there, but you've got to use marks of some sort. So that you do a spot landing practice and spot landing. So spot landing. good to have a competition in the club for spot landings, perhaps. See how good you really are. Although I guess in outlanding terms, it's not being exact, but it's being close. So, how many people have done a spot landing practice on their airfield this winter? A few hands went up. That's good. So, lots more people could do that sort of practice to make sure that somebody's asleep.
And perhaps steep approaches when you're coming above the trees and you've got that much space and you have to enter into that paddock. You would probably approach higher, and then just dive into the paddock.
What situation would cause that?
Well, if you stopped up you're picking,
Yeah.
and then you've got just a short paddock.
So you've got a
Well,
short paddock.
sort of, and line up those trees. Well, you will give a
Okay.
bit of clearance over the trees, and then you want to dive.
So why does a steep approach help you with that?
Well, not the approach, the actual landing. When you have to clear the trees first, right? And then you've got a fairly short paddock.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I mean, that's true. You can do that. And as I said last week, I did end up doing it once. But and they do practice that for the Australian team going overseas. They'll practice, because in Europe especially, there's small fields with lots of trees around. So in order to reduce the risk of damage or injury, they practice landing in those fields. We don't really have that problem in Australia, unless you've mucked it up, like you say, and like I did. So, yeah, sure, I think it's okay to practice that, but you need to get permission first, speak to your instructors or CFI or whatever, and make sure that it's set up. If you're going to do that sort of thing, then make sure that it's set up properly, and you're not doing an exercise that's more likely to damage your glider than actually landing in a paddock is. So you've got to be careful with that sort of thing. If it's a non-standard, I mean, with a paddock landing, we really want to do a standard circuit of landing, make everything as standard as possible. So you set yourself up, draw the runway on the ground in your mind. There's the runway. I'm going to do a standard circuit into that runway. Everything's standard. So you know, that sort of thing would be a last resort when you've really mucked it up. And, you know, perhaps there's other things you can make up as well that you might practice for, but you've got to be very careful not to have the practice cause more trouble than the outlanding would have. All right, so there's a few things that we can. Of course, outlanding it's one of the barriers, I suppose, to cross-country flying, isn't it? Outlanding creates problems. People are nervous about outlanding, and then it's the trouble after. You've got to get the tow plane. If you've got permission, you've got to get the trailer. In Queensland, they won't send the tow plane out for you unless you land on a runway, because the paddocks are so variable, unreliable. Yeah, so it's a bit of a barrier, but if you practice these things, then it becomes less of a barrier. You know, the act of outlanding becomes less of a barrier for you. Less risk of damaging anything. Rightio. Alright, so lots of practice. Make it targeted. There's things you can practice on for that particular flight. And make sure you can do outlandings or land accurately. Okay, competitions. Not everyone's for competitions, but I can tell you they're great fun. So, if you get a chance to go in competitions, I suggest you do it. Paul, recently you've taken up gliding, after a lifetime of flying, I should say. You've taken up gliding and you've gone in quite a few competitions. What can you tell us? What did you think of it?
I enjoyed it very much, but after my first outlanding, the first state con, I did 3 outlandings, and they really damaged my confidence. And I found I was just far too cautious thereafter. But yeah, otherwise they're good.
Sorry about that, Greg. Let's pick someone else.
I think they're lovely.
Yeah, I'm still entering them, and I'll keep entering. I'm going to enter 3 this season.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hope to be more confident. Back at Beverley, I was surprised the guys weren't getting airborne. Around about midday, I wanted them to get going because the thermals are going to about 4,000, and at Beverley they'd wait until it was going to 6 or so before they'd get airborne for the cross country.
I think you've learnt lots.
Yes, I am.
So learn lots. You learn to be cautious and wary of the weather. So I guess it gives you a better feel for when to be cautious and when to go for it a bit more. So it perhaps improves your judgment in that respect. And you say when you got back to Beverley you wanted to get going when it was 4,000 feet, and Owen and his cronies were holding you back because they wanted 8,000 feet. So I guess that's a confidence thing, isn't it? You had more confidence than they did. So you may not have felt like it, but in reality, your confidence was higher than other people's confidence. And you get outlanding practice, don't you?
Even in summer.
All my outlanding, bar one, has been during competitions.
Yeah, most of mine have too.
That means you're not pushing yourself normally.
Yeah, okay then. All right, so those are the sort of things you can get out of it. Most of us, I guess, most of us have been in comps. One thing that's important in terms of trying to win comps, I suppose, is to, early on in the comps, early on you'd be cautious, fly cautiously. Cautious, because some people won't fly cautiously and they'll come unstuck. So you don't have to worry about them anymore. Unfortunately, I was one of those at Waikerie because I wasn't cautious enough on the second day. So early on you need to be cautious so that you're not going to come first, but you're just aiming on coming well up. Not necessarily first or second or third, but well up. And then at the end, it depends how it's gone. If you've been cautious and many others have dropped off because they haven't been cautious enough, so they've outlanded or they've got low and scratched and lost lots of points one day. So at the end it depends where you play. So if you're near the top, then you can keep flying cautiously. You've got a margin, you don't need to take any risks. You're okay. If you're near the bottom, or if you're, well, let's say you're near the top but you're not on top, you need to make up 200 points. If you're near the top but not on top, then you've really got to give it a good bash, don't you? You've got to take risks, not safety risks, but task risks or points risks, so that you've got a chance of closing the gap. So, for example, if you're getting 5-knot climbs, you might cruise at 100 knots today, which is the optimum cruise speed, instead of 85 or 90 knots that you would have flown at if you were being a bit more cautious. If you're getting 5 knots and you strike a 3-knot thermal at 3,000 feet, you might not take it, even though normally you would. You'd say, no, I'll keep going until I hit 5 knots, so I can make up a bit of ground. So off you go, and you risk outlanding, but if you get the 5 knots, well, you catch up a little bit, that sort of thing. You might if it's an AAT task, you might risk going somewhere that's got a good chance of being better, but there's other risks associated with it, perhaps not getting back in time, I don't know. So you're going to take more task risks, not safety risks, to try and close the gap. So you've got to weigh up those issues throughout the comp. Are you in a position where you can sit back and be a bit cautious, or are you going to go for it and try and make up points? That sort of thing. Any other comments or questions about comps?
Bring them on.
A great learning environment. They really are a great learning environment. So if you possibly can, get into it.